This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Grainger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wondercide comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed. Lab-proven to work fast. And proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wondercide's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wondercide.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wondercide.com. Wondercide. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wondercide today.
This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Grainger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I saw it. A shadow, man-sized, moving across the far wall.
Welcome to Tell Me a Ghost Story, the late night call-in podcast where we delve into the world of the supernatural and explore the eerie and unexplained. I'm your host, Michelle Newman. This podcast features true stories from our callers that will send shivers down your spine and leave you questioning the existence of the afterlife. So grab a cozy blanket, turn down the lights.
Hey, Michelle. I want to remain anonymous, but I do have a ghost story for you. I was on vacation with my husband. We were going to go hiking. It was just like a weekend away. We went out into the countryside of Washington State to this little town called Index. And we stayed at this place called the Bush House Inn. And it's adorable. It looks like it's from another time. It's the perfect place to go hiking. It's a very cute little place. Anyway, that night, after we've been hiking all day, we go back to our room and we'll go to sleep. And I have this crazy dream. And in this dream, I find out my husband has died. And so I decide I'm gonna jump out the window instead of living without him. And this was such a real dream. Like, it was so visceral, and I was so sad, and I was so determined to end my own life that I woke up and my husband was just asleep next to me and everything was fine. And I calmed myself down and I realized it was just a dream. But the next morning, I get up and I'm flipping through some of the literature they have in the lobby. And I find this book, and the Bush House Inn is in this book. And and there's a ghost story about a woman here. And the most famous ghost story about the Bush House Inn, about this place, it's about a woman who heard that her husband died in a mining accident, but it wasn't true but it was already too late and she'd taken her own life. And so that had been my whole dream, and I just got chills up and down my body.
Thank you, Anonymous. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between a dream and a haunting. Our caller dreamed she lost her husband only to find out later that her vision matched the most famous legend at the Bush House Inn. Folklorists call this a place memory haunting, when a story seems to settle into a building and replay in the minds of those who visit. People all over the world report the same things in inns, castles, motels. So listeners, what do you think? Did she catch a glimpse of the old story in the literature sitting around the hotel? Or was it something whispering in her ear from the beyond?
Hey Michelle, this is Emily. I'm from Chicago. This story happened last summer. I was home alone. I was sleeping and, I heard this noise outside my bedroom, and I swear, I thought it was my cat. And so I just rolled over and went back to bed and went back to sleep. I kept feeling this tapping on my foot, and I thought it was my cat. And I was just I kept pulling my foot away, being stop. It happened 2 or 3 times where I just felt this a tap on my foot. And I was like, what? All right, I'll get up and feed you. And so I get up, and the cat is nowhere to be seen. And I walk downstairs, and the front door was wide open. So I went and I shut the door, and then I went into the kitchen, and the cat was sitting there asleep in the kitchen. So I don't know what happened. I don't know what was tapping my foot. I don't know if it was normal or something weird. But that was just a weird thing that happened to me last summer. Anyway, I love the show. Thanks again for listening.
Thank you, Emily, for your story. It hits close to home because it's one of those stories that's quiet and ordinary until it isn't. Was Emily's visitor just a draft? A burglar who never was? Or something darker testing the boundary of her home?
Hi, I'm Sabrina Wu, and I'm calling in from Los Angeles, and I'm here to tell you a ghost story. I grew up in Michigan, and I never really saw a ghost, but for the longest time, I was always so scared to go into my own home, especially in my own childhood bedroom and certain rooms in my house. We lived, in the woods. I was always hearing noises that I would attribute to, oh, there must be, a squirrel, a bird, tapping on stuff, and that's what I would tell myself. In my childhood bedroom, I always sort of felt there were specific corners where, right before bed, that I felt malevolent energy, was watching me and, was gathered. Just, in this one corner, kind of, where you could just kind of stare directly into my bedroom. And I do think it was feng shui related. There was something about, our house was set up in a way where, my childhood bedroom, if you walked up the stairs, it was just a straight shot. It was just a straight shot to to downstairs, and my home was pretty open in general, so it was all this open air, and then it all funneled into my room. Also, I was above a garage, and that's pretty bad energy just in general. I mean, was it ghosts or was it carbon monoxide poisoning me slowly but surely? I don't know. I used to do all sorts of rituals, even as a child before I really knew why, to try to ward off the bad spirits. I again, barely ever went to church, but somehow I was always praying to the Christian Lord to please banish whatever evil spirit was in the office because I was trying to do homework. And it was like the only way I could kind of find peace, like when I was feeling just so freaked out by certain rooms in the house, you know? I don't know. But everyone else thought I was being paranoid, like in my own family. But I will say that later in life, I told my mom that I always felt like our home was haunted, and then I came home and suddenly there were sage-scented candles everywhere in our house. And I was like, wait, Mom, did you get those sage-scented candles because I felt like the house was haunted? And she said not no. So I do think that's why they were there. And since then, the energy in the home has shifted a lot. So, I do sort of wonder if there were some, like, negative energies in our home, especially from listening to Michelle talk in the podcast, that sometimes you just know from, like, just, like, creepy energy where your hair sticks up. And I think I don't know, it's just something I've been thinking about lately since, like, I've entered a lot of homes where my hair doesn't stick up, and it does feel just interesting to me that maybe I was picking up on something.
Thank you, Sabrina, for calling in again. Children are often dismissed for saying a room feels bad or a corner feels watched. But experience tells us that children are a lot closer to the unseen before we teach them not to be.
My name's Elijah. I'm from Tennessee and I live just outside of Kentucky now. I have been preaching for over 20 years. This is something I don't usually talk about. There's a house just by the railroad tracks, right near the bend in the river. Folks in town call it the cursed house. I always thought that was just gossip. But then one of my young couples from church moved in, and they started hearing walking. Heavy steps up and down the hallway every night, always stopping right outside their bedroom door. So they asked me to come pray over the place, and I did. I walked in, it was quiet, too quiet. I went room to room reading from the Psalms. And when I stepped into the back bedroom, I saw it. A shadow, man-sized, moving across the far wall. And I tell you what, Michelle, there was no light in that room. No lamp, no shadow through the window. The air got thick, like the whole house was pressing on my chest. I don't know what it was, but I can tell you it wasn't the Lord standing there with me. And I finished my prayer, left with the couple, and I've never been back. I'd helped that couple find any place to live. And to this day, when I'm driving past that bend in the river, I keep my eyes on the road.
Thank you, Elijah. Your voice is lovely. Elijah did what priests have done for centuries. He read the Psalms out loud, not to drive anything away, but to claim the space for the light. Still, he admits he's never gone back, and sometimes faith isn't about getting rid of the darkness. It's about knowing when to find a new place to live.
Hi, this is Cindy Ketron from Avon, Indiana, KETRN. My brother just now reminded me of a ghost story that happened to me back in the 5th grade, back in school. I was at Willard Elementary School in Speedway, Indiana. Well, anyway, I wanted to say a story about what happened to this girl I knew from another school. She wasn't from Willard, but she was from another school. But anyway, I met her at the library. Her name was Sarah Miller, and she was in the same grade I am when we became fast friends. And anyway, she would follow me home from school every day, except when my mom would give me a ride, we'd give her a ride home. Well, anyway, one day Sarah Miller appeared, and she looked pale. It was in the wintertime around the 1st of December, and she appeared pale and everything. I said, Sarah, what's wrong? She wouldn't speak. She was always wearing a red. Red was her favorite color. Red overcoat, red dress, red leotards, red shoes, real shoes, a hat. She even liked red purse every day. But anyway, she was wearing, her favorite thing was red mittens in the wintertime. And her mother had made them, and that's why she thought it was so special. But anyway, one particular day I said to Sarah, would you like to have a ride home? My mother had to take me to a doctor's appointment, and we thought we'd give her a ride. And she nodded, and she followed me out to the car. And then halfway toward the car, when Mom says, where's your friend? I said, I thought she was with me. And then I looked behind me, and the shoe prints had stopped right in the middle of the yard of the schoolyard. So it was then that we went into that state and asked him what happened to Sarah Miller. And even though she didn't go to the school, she was killed in a car wreck not far from the school. So that's what happened to the ghost of Sarah Miller. That's not a real name, but I gave her that name. But I'm haunted to this day by her. So, but anyway, be on the lookout for Sarah Miller if you're ever in Speedway, Indiana. And in the wintertime, she wears the color red, red mittens, red everything. And in summer and spring, she wears red too, so you can't miss her. Well, anyway, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Cindy, for calling in again. Cindy's memory of a childhood friend named Sarah, always dressed in red, carries us to one of the most enduring ghost story archetypes. The Lady in Red. From London theaters to American highways, stories tell of a woman in crimson clothing suddenly appearing, only to vanish. Folklore suggests red symbolizes both love and tragedy, making these figures unforgettable. Cindy later learned that Sarah had died in an accident. Psychologists might call it a child's way of processing grief. But the footprints in the snow, stopping mid-yard, sound exactly like what ghost hunters call a crisis apparition. The spirit appearing at the moment of death, and maybe someone who doesn't fully know they're dead yet. If you're ever in Speedway, Indiana, do as Cindy warns. Watch for the girl in red. That's all we have this week, folks. Do you have a ghost story? Call 701-484-2666. That's 701-484-2666. Or go to tellmeaghoststory.com and leave your story there. Thank you to all the callers who left messages this week. And as always, I'm your host, Michelle Newman, signing off. See you next week.
Makabine.